What's up guys, Jun with the Sushi Man, and in today's video, I'll be going over the best knife to use for making sushi. And I'll be covering a few different types of knives and explaining the pros and cons of each so that you can figure out which knife is best suited for your personal needs, and ultimately make the best purchasing decision. Because a good knife will last you a lifetime, so invest in one that you'll actually use. Alright, now let's jump right in. The first one we're going to cover is called the Yanagiba. It's the most traditional and commonly used, and probably what most people imagine when thinking about a sushi knife. Yanagiba in Japanese translates to willow leaf blade, because the long, narrow shape of this blade represents the leaves from a willow tree. And the reason why it's used so often in the sushi industry is because when we're cutting fish, the length of the blade allows for a smooth, clean cut in one single stroke, instead of going back and forth like a saw. And clean cuts are obviously important when making sushi. Now that said, it's a great option as a dedicated sushi knife, but not so versatile when it comes to other cuisine. Like you wouldn't be using this to chop up carrots. I mean, you can I suppose, but it's not made for that. So keep that in mind when looking for a new knife. This one here was actually my very first sushi knife that my dad gave me eons ago. Originally it was about this long, probably a good 3 inches longer than it is now. But throughout the years of sharpening, it's come down to this size. Still an amazing knife though. Anyways, other things to note about the Yanagiba is that like other traditional Japanese knives, the blade is a single bevel, which means it's sharpened from one side only. This means better edge retention, or in other words, it's hella sharp and it stays hella sharp. However, single bevel knives can take a bit to get used to, especially if you're used to cooking with a more Western style knife, which is double beveled. Not to mention, it's not universal for right hand and left handed users. So if you're gonna get a Yanagiba, make sure it's the correct sided bevel. Now, before we move on to the next knife, I want to talk about the type of steel these knives are made from. And I'm going to make it really quick because you really only need to know one thing, and that is the difference between carbon steel and stainless steel. And I mention this now because a lot of Yanagibas are made from high carbon steel, which is great, but you need to know how to maintain it properly. I know so many people that have bought expensive Japanese knives that are made with carbon steel and destroyed it, mainly because they were treating it like they're stainless steel knives. So very simply put, high carbon steel knives are sharper and will stay sharper, but you have to meticulously take care of it, whereas stainless steel knives are much more durable and easy to maintain. So if you're the type that washes their knives and leaves it out on a mat to dry, then stay away from carbon steel. That thing will be rusted orange within minutes. But if you don't mind putting in the extra effort and attention to caring for your knives, then carbon steel might be the way to go. And there's nothing like a well-sharpened high carbon steel knife. It's just so smooth and cuts effortlessly. Now, if you're the type that throws our knives in the dishwasher, then please stop. You're pissing off the knife gods. And do not waste your money on a quality knife until you learn how to take care of it better. Remember, it doesn't matter how good a knife is, if you don't take care of it, then it will eventually become trash. Alright, moving on to our second knife, the Sujihiki. This one I like to call the sushi knife of the West. It's basically the Yanagiba, but instead of a single bevel, it's double beveled. So sharpened from both sides, which is a lot more common in Western style knives. It's perfect to cut fish for the same reasons the Yanagiba is, as well as carve any boneless meats. It can be used to cut vegetables as well, but because of its shape, it's not the most versatile. Again, a great option for your primary sushi knife, but not if you intend to use it for other cooking. And if you follow my channel, then you've probably seen me use this particular one many times. It's my go-to for anything sushi related. It's extremely sharp, really well balanced, and very easy to maintain. Masamoto is one of my favorite knife brands, and you really can't go wrong with any of their knives. And I'll have links to some of these below. Now the main reason why the Yanagiba is more popular among sushi chefs is because the single bevel does tend to stay sharper compared to the double bevel Sujihiki. But trust me, a quality Sujihiki will be plenty, and I mean plenty sharp for majority of the people watching this. And it'll probably feel more comfortable to use, unless you're used to working with a traditional Japanese single bevel knife. And there's a lot of stainless steel options for the Sujihiki, which makes it easier to maintain, plus the price point is a bit less than the Yanagiba. Now these come in all different lengths, and it's really up to personal preference, but keep in mind how much space you have when you're cutting. Don't get a super long knife if your cutting board is this small. I like using one that has a 9 to 10 inch blade, either 240mm or 270mm, at least for a Yanagiba and Sujihiki. This one's 240 I believe. Alright, on to our third knife, which is the Gyuto. This is the all-around do-it-all chef's knife. Well, sort of. Don't go hacking away at chicken bones or anything, but it's super versatile and it's a great knife to have if you plan on using it for other types of cooking. Gyuto translates to cow blade and was originally used to break down beef, but the shape and size of it makes it very convenient to slice, chop, mince, and dice anything from meat, fish, vegetables, and fruits. I tend to use this for 90% of my home cooking, and it does a fantastic job. If I could only choose one knife to have at home, this would be it, just because of the versatility and how well it cuts through different ingredients. It's also a double bevel blade, which will feel comfortable for those that are used to Western style knives. And there are tons of stainless steel options, which makes the maintaining part a breeze. Size again is up to preference, but they usually come in anywhere between 7 to 11 inches. And I would recommend staying around the middle, maybe 8 to 9, which is what this one is, I believe. That way it's long enough to cut through fish in one stroke still, but compact enough where it's easy to use for other things. Because remember, this will most likely become your everyday, use for anything type of knife. Okay, moving on to our fourth and final knife, the Deba. Now, this one is a bit more advanced, and I'll tell you off the bat, you do not need this unless you are serious about making sushi, and you already have at least one of the other ones that I covered. I call this the muscle knife, and it's primarily used to break down whole fish. It has a very thick and heavy spine to it, and can chop off fish heads as well as cut through small bones. Now, just by that short explanation, you can see why this is a more advanced sushi knife, and majority of home cooks will not need this. So unless you're training to become a professional sushi chef, don't worry about this one. I did want to include it in this list though, because I know some of you are chefs in training and might already have a quality Yanagiba, Sujihiki, or Gyuto. So if you're starting to get into breaking down fish and need a stronger blade that will withstand cutting the bones, then the Deba is the knife to get. These are traditional single bevel knives just like the Yanagiba and stays extremely sharp. A lot of them will be made from carbon steel, but you can find some that are stainless as well. A 6-inch blade is right around the middle and what I recommend for all around usage, but again, it's up to personal preference. Alright, now that we've gone through the 4 knives, let's do a quick recap. So the Yanagiba. This is the traditional sushi knife that's most popular amongst professional sushi chefs. It's a single bevel blade which tends to be sharper but can take a bit of practice to get used to. A lot of these will be made with high carbon steel which requires special maintenance and care. Great as a dedicated sushi knife, but not meant for other types of cooking. And price point is going to be on the higher end for a good quality Yanagiba. Next, the Sujihiki. It has a double bevel, which is a characteristic found in Western knives. This means there's less of a learning curve and will most likely feel more comfortable to use right out of the box, assuming you don't have much experience with traditional Japanese single bevel knives. The double bevel may not get as sharp as a traditional single bevel, but is still extremely sharp and does any cutting job with ease. It comes in both carbon and stainless steel, but it has more stainless options compared to the Yanagiba, and stainless steel makes it much easier to take care of. And price range for a quality Sujihiki tends to be a little bit less than the traditional Yanagiba. Okay, now the Gyuto. This is the all-around chef knife that can be used for all different styles of cooking. Great for beginners that want a versatile knife that isn't necessarily dedicated for sushi. It's also a double bevel like a typical Western knife, and the shape and feel of it should be very comfortable to use for most people. It also comes in both carbon steel and stainless steel, and there's plenty of options for both. And you can find good quality Gyutos for a lower price point than the Sujihiki or Yanagiba. Alright, and the last one is the Deba. This one again is a more advanced knife, and only look into this if you already have a quality Gyuto, Sujihiki, or Yanagiba. At least one of those. It's not very versatile and it specializes in one thing, which is breaking down whole fish. It's a traditional single bevel style which can get razor sharp, but again takes some practice to get used to. A lot of these will be high carbon steel, but you can find some that are stainless as well. And price varies of course, but you're probably looking at a similar price range as the Yanagiba for a good quality Deba. Alright, that's the breakdown on these 4 different knives used for sushi. Now, before you get all excited and go hit that buy button, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. 1. How serious am I about making sushi? And 2, and this kind of goes with number 1, but how often will I be making sushi? 3. Will I be using this knife for other cooking? 4. How much do I want to spend? A quality knife is an investment, especially some of these that I went over can easily cost you $200, $300, $400 and above, but as long as you take care of it, it will last you a lifetime. Now that said, I don't want you to go and spend your hard-earned money for something that's just going to sit in a drawer. These knives are meant to be used, so make sure to really think about those questions before you buy any. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful and that it can assist you in making a good purchasing decision. And remember, you don't have to get all of these at once. Just start off with one, get used to it, and then as you level up your sushi game, keep adding more. And if you really want to level up your sushi skills, then be sure to check out my book. It's called How to Make Sushi at Home, a fundamental guide for beginners and beyond. I cover topics just like this one and so much more, like what to look for when buying fish, how to prep it properly, different ways to cut sashimi, how to make rolls, nigiri, temaki, chirashi, I mean the list goes on and on. Check out the links below if you're interested. And now that you understand basic sushi knives, learn more about other essential sushi tools by going to this video right over here. Alright, thanks for watching, and as always, feel free to leave any questions or comments below. I'll see you on the next one. Arigatou gozaimasu.